I'm so glad to be here with you today to explore a topic that none of us can avoid, yet one that's filled with incredible hope. That topic is how to age gracefully. What if I told you there's a way of living that could make our later years not just longer, but more vibrant, more dignified, and even happier than we ever imagined possible? Would that interest you? And what if I told you that this answer isn't hidden in expensive supplements or intimidating gym equipment, but rather in the daily rhythms of an ancient culture? What would you think then? For so many years, we've been surrounded by complex health theories. We've been told to count calories, track our heart rates, and push ourselves through one challenging program after another. But many people, including some of my own friends, have felt a deep exhaustion from all of this. We seem to be fighting for our health, yet in the process, we're gradually losing the joy of living. We pursue the length of life while often ignoring its width and depth. This made me start thinking about something. Is there a possibility that the path to health and longevity isn't a grueling battle, but rather an elegant dance? Is there wisdom that allows us to make peace with the years, rather than fight against them? With this question in mind, I began deeply researching those places around the world recognized as longevity zones. And one name kept jumping out at me again and again. Italy. Did you know that Italians have an average life expectancy several years longer than Americans? At first, I thought it must be genetics or their advanced medical system. After all, we tend to attribute answers to those grand factors we can't control. But when I dug deeper, a surprising discovery emerged. What really makes the difference isn't those unchangeable inherited factors, but four seemingly insignificant yet culturally pervasive simple life habits. These four habits are ones most Americans have never truly heard of, let alone practiced. They're so simple yet so profound that they don't just add years to life, but add life to years. Today, I hope to sit down with you like an old friend and take some time to share these four sweet life principles from Italy, one by one. This isn't just knowledge about health, but an invitation to rediscover life's rhythm and joy. I believe that after listening, you'll have a completely new and hopeful understanding of aging. Let's start with the first and most fundamental one. I call it the ritual of the table. In America, we often pride ourselves on our efficiency. Our culture is, in many ways, a fast culture. Breakfast might be a cup of coffee with a hastily consumed muffin. Lunch could very well be a sandwich eaten at the office desk while staring at a computer screen. Dinner might even be fast food consumed in the car on the way home. We're used to multitasking, eating while watching the news and replying to messages on our phones. We've turned eating into a task that needs to be completed as quickly as possible, a necessary procedure for refueling the body like a machine. Statistics show that a typical American meal, from start to finish, lasts an average of just 7 minutes. 7 minutes, my friends. Please think carefully about this number. In those short 420 seconds, what state are our bodies and brains in? They're in a fight or flight stress state. Our sympathetic nervous system is activated. And our body is saying, quick, refuel quickly, there's another task waiting for us to complete. Under this invisible pressure, our digestive system simply cannot enter its optimal working state. Blood flows more to our limbs and brain, rather than to our gastrointestinal tract. This directly leads to insufficient food digestion and greatly reduced nutrient absorption. Worse still, the body releases large amounts of stress hormones like cortisol, which interfere with our normal metabolism, and can even cause systemic chronic inflammation over time. More importantly, in those short 7 minutes, our brain simply doesn't have time to receive the crucial signal that we're full. Scientific research tells us that from the time our stomach feels satisfied to when this signal reaches the brain's satiety center through a series of complex hormones like leptin, this process takes about 20 minutes. This means that when we eat a meal in 7 minutes, we're essentially eating with delayed feedback from our brain. We often continue eating without feeling full until our stomach is physically filled to capacity. What's the result? We unknowingly consume far more food than our body actually needs, causing blood sugar to spike dramatically after meals, putting enormous strain on our pancreas. Meanwhile, excess energy inevitably converts to fat, stored in our waist and abdomen. Over time, this becomes a root cause of indigestion, acid reflux, weight gain, and even increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Now let's turn our attention to Italy and see a completely different picture. In Italy, eating has never been a task requiring urgency. On the contrary, it's the most important social activity of the day, a sacred ritual. They have an unwritten but deeply ingrained rule called the 20-minute meal principle. This has nothing to do with whether you're eating expensive steak or simple pasta, but everything to do with how you eat. Please imagine this scene with me. Evening time, a family, young and old, gathered around the dinner table. There may not be luxurious dishes on the table, but there are definitely fresh ingredients and warm lighting. The air is filled with the aroma of food and the cheerful laughter of family. There's no noise from television, no blue light from phone screens. They slowly savor their food, mindfully chewing, feeling the sweet and sour of tomatoes, the fresh fragrance of olive oil. Between each bite, they naturally put down their forks, pick up their wine glasses, or simply lean back in their chairs to participate in relaxed conversation. They share the day's experiences, listen to each other's stories, make eye contact, and let emotions flow. This meal might last half an hour, or even longer. This isn't just a beautiful cultural dish, my friends. There's extremely profound scientific basis behind it. A major Harvard Medical School study that tracked thousands of participants clearly showed that those who take more than 20 minutes to eat have significantly lower risks of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and obesity compared to those who wolf down their food. When you slow down, your body miraculously switches from fight mode, dominated by the sympathetic nervous system, to rest and digest mode, dominated by the parasympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate slows, your breathing becomes deep, your digestive tract receives adequate blood supply, and begins efficiently secreting digestive enzymes to maximally absorb precious nutrients from food. At the same time, your brain has sufficient time to receive satiety signals from the gastrointestinal tract. You'll naturally stop when you're 80% full, rather than waiting until you're completely stuffed. More importantly, you transform eating from a stressful task into a nourishing enjoyment for body and soul, a precious moment of emotional connection with family and friends. I had a client named Frank, 72 years old, from Texas. He was a retired corporate executive who had been quick and decisive his whole life, and hadn't slowed down at all after retirement. He was always used to solving a burger in 7 or 8 minutes in his car while listening to financial news. The result was chronic weight problems, constant digestive issues requiring long-term medication, and blood pressure that stayed at concerning levels, worrying his doctor greatly. Later, he followed my advice and began somewhat reluctantly trying this 20-minute meal rule. At first, he was very uncomfortable. He told me he felt sitting at the dinner table doing nothing but slowly eating was almost torture. Such a waste of time. But he stuck with it. He began requiring himself to eat at home, turning off the TV, putting his phone in another room, even setting a 20-minute timer for himself. About 3 months later, he called me, his voice filled with incredible surprise. He said a miracle had happened. He hadn't deliberately dieted, even eating similar types of food as before, but his weight had naturally dropped 25 pounds. His digestive system felt more comfortable than ever, and decades of heartburn had disappeared. What surprised him most was that in his recent physical exam, his blood pressure had also returned to very healthy levels. Frank said emotionally over the phone, "For the first time in my life, I discovered that food actually has taste. For the past decades, I was just swallowing fuel, but now I'm truly beginning to taste life." This story really touched me. Such a simple change could bring such profound impact. So my friends, I sincerely invite you to try this small change starting with your very next meal. Give yourself a 20-minute commitment, see it as an investment in your physical and mental health. Turn off all distractions, put down your fork, slowly and truly taste your food. This small ritual might become your first and most solid step toward a healthier, more composed life. Now that we've experienced the tranquility of the dinner table, let's talk about the second secret. This secret might also overturn many people's traditional views of exercise. I call it the rhythm of life. In America, we have a deeply rooted gym culture. We generally believe that exercise means putting on professional gear, going to a specific place like a gym, sweating profusely on treadmills, or lifting heavy barbells in the weight room. We're used to high-intensity, concentrated, goal-oriented workouts 2 or 3 times a week for an hour or 2 each time, then feeling like we've completed our task. For the vast majority of the remaining time, our lifestyle is extremely sedentary. We sit in office chairs for long periods, sit in car driver's seats for long periods, sink into soft sofas for long periods. This pattern of either not moving or exercising intensely actually hides considerable risks for us, especially for those of us entering the second half of life. Mayo Clinic researchers found that this pattern of alternating long periods of sitting with brief intense exercise creates repeated impact and stress on our bodies. It produces large amounts of oxidative stress, what we commonly call free radicals, in short periods of time. This is considered an important cause of accelerated cellular aging. Moreover, as we age, ligaments and muscles all have declining recovery capacity. High-intensity exercise undoubtedly greatly increases our risk of injury and chronic inflammation. A friend of mine, 68-year-old Carol, was a typical representative of this culture and suffered greatly from it. She was a retired teacher who was very health conscious. After retirement, she got herself an expensive gym membership and unfailingly went to the gym 3 times a week to participate in high-intensity aerobic classes that even young people found challenging. She believed that only by making herself breathless and drenched in sweat could it count as effective exercise. As a result, within less than a year, her knees developed serious arthritis due to excessive impact and use, causing her tremendous pain. Even going up and down stairs became a problem. Eventually, she had to give up the gym, and because of pain and frustration, became even less active than before. So let's turn our attention to Italy again and see the wisdom there. In Italy, you rarely see gyms packed with elderly people. Their exercise is a completely different picture. It's not a deliberately scheduled task, but rather woven naturally and seamlessly into every moment of daily life, like breathing. Researchers call this approach incidental exercise. They walk daily to the local vibrant outdoor market to buy fresh vegetables and fruits, rather than driving to stock up on a week's worth of frozen food at large supermarkets all at once. This process itself is a pleasant, socially accompanied gentle exercise. They naturally choose to take the stairs rather than stand in crowded elevators. Many Italian families, young and old, tend to small gardens in their yards or on balconies, growing basil, rosemary, and tomatoes. Bending, squatting, and watering are all excellent exercises for core strength and flexibility. Their most famous and charming tradition is called La Passeggiata, which translates to the evening stroll. Every day after dinner, when the sunset turns the town's cobblestone streets golden, people throughout the town, men and women young and old, spontaneously to the streets and flow toward the central square. They're not going to a specific destination, nor are they trying to complete a 10,000-step challenge. They just walk slowly, in small groups, chatting about the weather with neighbors they meet, greeting friends at cafe doorways. Children play and chase around them while elderly people sit leisurely on benches. This is a flowing, vibrant community tableau. This continuous, low-intensity, gentle exercise is what our bodies, especially our aging bodies, truly need and love. It keeps our cardiovascular system constantly active, maintains precious muscle mass, promotes circulation throughout the body, without putting excessive pressure and wear on our joints. It doesn't cause our bodies to have severe stress responses. Instead, it's a gentle, continuous nourishment. Later, my friend Carol, following my advice, gave up that confrontational gym mentality and began adopting this Italian-style approach to movement. She no longer forced herself, but began enjoying the process. She spent 30 minutes each day leisurely walking in her scenic neighborhood. Sometimes to mail a letter at the post office, sometimes to borrow a book from the library, sometimes just to greet her neighbor's dog. She told me her joint pain had greatly decreased. Her energy was actually more abundant than before, and even her years-long insomnia problem had improved remarkably. Most importantly, she told me she had rediscovered the joy of movement. She no longer saw it as punishment, but as a way to dialogue with her body and connect her community. So my friends, I earnestly ask you to reconsider our exercise habits. What we may need isn't harder workouts, but wiser activity. Try to sprinkle movement like salt evenly throughout your day, rather than consuming it like medicine concentrated at one time point. Give yourself 30 minutes of rhythm time each day. It could be a relaxing walk, tending to a garden, or even pacing around the room while talking on the phone. Remember, the key is consistency, not intensity. Let our bodies be like a gently flowing, never drying stream, rather than a reverb that's sometimes parched and sometimes flooding. After adjusting our body's rhythm, let's talk about a deeper topic. This is the third secret, and it's a factor that's been seriously overlooked in modern society yet may be a matter of life and death for us. I call it the power of the piazza. In America, we live in a society that emphasizes individualism and independence. This certainly has its positive aspects. But as we age, this culture also brings a huge challenge: social isolation. Our children have grown up and may have moved to distant cities for work and family. Our lifelong close friends may have gradually lost contact due to health or various reasons. After retirement, we also lose that tight, daily connection with colleagues. Many people, especially our elderly friends, are facing a silent yet extremely dangerous crisis: social isolation. We might think loneliness is just emotional discomfort, a psychological feeling. But over the past 20 years, extensive rigorous scientific research has revealed a shocking truth to us: its harm is physiological and deadly. A landmark long-term study by Johns Hopkins University that tracked tens of thousands of participants reached a conclusion that shocked the entire medical community. Social isolation increases our risk of premature death by up to 50%. My friends, please let me repeat that: 50%. What does this mean? This risk is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, even higher than the health risks brought by severe obesity. Why is this so? Because from an evolutionary psychology perspective, we humans are social animals. Throughout millions of years of evolution, being accepted by the group meant safety and survival, while being isolated meant danger and death. So when we feel lonely, the most primitive part of our brain interprets this as the highest level survival threat. This keeps our bodies in a chronic, low-grade stress state. Stress hormones like cortisol are continuously secreted. Our immune system function is severely suppressed, making us more susceptible to infections and diseases. At the same time, inflammation levels throughout our body rise significantly, and chronic inflammation is now considered the common root of almost all elderly chronic diseases, including heart disease, cancer, and arthritis. More frightening, research has found that elderly people who are chronically lonely experience faster shrinkage in the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and cognitive function. This makes their risk of developing Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia a full 64% higher than socially active people. Loneliness doesn't just make us feel sad. It's literally and physiologically eroding our health and shortening our lives. In Italy, their culture itself is the best antidote to this epidemic of loneliness. Their social structure naturally and constantly encourages face-to-face human connections. Multi-generational families are still very common, and grandparents don't play marginalized roles in families but rather play crucial roles in passing down wisdom and caring for grandchildren. They're needed and respected. Sunday family lunch is a sacred tradition set in stone. No matter where the children work, they try their best to come back. Several generations sit together, sharing food and sharing the little details of life. Their community life is equally rich and colorful. Neighborly relationships are very close. People meet at local cafes and in the town's central square for daily, informal socializing. This powerful network of community and family bonds provides everyone, especially the elderly, with a solid emotional safety net. They rarely feel isolated or useless. They're always a seen, heard, needed, and respected part of their family and community. I know an old gentleman named Giuseppe who's 83 years old and lives in a small village in Tuscany. He told me he still has dinner with his children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren every Sunday. He said, "These moments nourish my soul more than any medicine. I know that no matter what happens I have a harbor to rely on." We certainly can't and don't need to completely replicate Italy's social model, but we can learn the core wisdom from it, consciously weave a tighter, higher quality social network for our later years. This doesn't require you to become an outgoing social butterfly. It can be very simple and very personal. For example, set aside a fixed time each week to call a family member or an old friend you haven't contacted in a long time. Not sending a simple text message, but actually picking up the phone, hearing each other's voices, having a deep conversation even if it's just 15 minutes. You could try joining a community center or a group that matches your interests, like a book club, a gardening club, a choir, to meet new friends with common interests. Even, as we mentioned before, when you go out for daily walks, actively smile and greet neighbors and shop clerks you encounter, engaging in brief but warm human exchanges. These seemingly small interactions are all sending a crucial signal to our brains: you are safe, you are valuable, you are connected. This can effectively lower our stress levels, strengthen our immune system function, and protect our brains from the ravages of aging. Please remember, my friends, warm human connections are one of our most powerful weapons against the erosion of time. Don't wait until you feel lonely to passively seek help. Starting today, actively plant, water, and nurture your social garden. Finally, let's talk about the fourth and what I consider the most surprising and philosophically meaningful secret. It's not just a habit, but a fundamental attitude toward life. I call it the art of the pause. In America, we have a deeply rooted philosophy of striving. We worship business, we worship efficiency. We see stopping as laziness, as wasting time, as something to feel guilty about. This mindset stubbornly influences us even after retirement. We always feel we need to fill our schedules completely, using various activities, meetings, and obligations to prove our worth, to fight against the panic of having nothing to do. A friend of mine, 69-year-old Henry, was exactly this type of person. He was a successful lawyer who was busier after retirement than when he was working. He joined 3 nonprofit organization committees and had every day scheduled meticulously. He constantly worried about his financial situation, worried about his children's future, worried about family health problems. He felt like a perpetual motion machine that couldn't stop for a moment. The result was that he was in a state of constant mental tension, had extremely poor sleep quality, and often felt inexplicable anxiety and fatigue. This chronic, continuous stress is the most hidden yet most prevalent health killer in modern life. Scientists at the University of California, including Nobel Prize winner Elizabeth Blackburn, conducted groundbreaking research. They found that chronic stress directly attacks the lock deep within our cells. At the end of each of our chromosomes is a protective structure called telomeres. Like the little plastic tips at the end of shoelaces, they protect our precious genetic information from being worn down during cell division. With each cell division, telomeres inevitably shorten a little bit. When they shorten to a certain critical length, cells stop dividing and enter the aging and death program. The length of telomeres largely determines our biological age. This research found that chronic stress causes our bodies to produce large amounts of stress hormones like cortisol. These hormones act like cellular toxins, continuously corroding and destroying our telomeres like acid rain, making them shorten 40% faster than normal. My friends, please understand what this means. Continuous stress is accelerating our aging process from the very foundation of our genes. It's not just making us feel tired and anxious. It's truly and literally stealing years from our lives at the molecular level. Italian life philosophy once again gives us a completely different, wisdom-filled answer. They have a beautiful word that the whole world envies, called la dolce vita, which translates to the sweet life. Behind this is an art and wisdom of enjoying the present moment, knowing how to slow down, knowing how to do nothing. One core cultural practice is el reposo, what we commonly call the afternoon rest time. But this isn't simply taking an afternoon nap. It's a deliberate, ritualistic pause that's respected by the entire society. During this time, shops close, offices rest. They set aside all work and responsibilities, allowing their bodies and minds to get complete and thorough relaxation and recovery. This pause is like pressing the restart button on our high-speed, nearly overheated nervous system. It allows our bodies to break free from the continuous fight or flight stress state and enter rest and repair mode. In this mode, stress hormone levels drop dramatically, and the body begins to have time and energy for self-repair, rebuilding cells and tissues damaged by stress. Each of us can learn and practice this art of the pause in our own lives. I call it the Italian pause method. It's very simple yet extremely effective. Every day, please schedule yourself a 20-minute unwavering, sacred and inviolable time of doing nothing. During this time, you must distance yourself from all responsibilities, tasks, and information. Turn off your phone, turn off the TV, stay away from the computer. You can simply sit quietly in a comfortable chair or lie down. Close your eyes and focus your attention on your breathing, feeling each inhalation and exhalation. You can listen to soothing, wordless music, or do some very gentle stretching exercises. The key is that you allow your brain and body to completely go offline, to do nothing, to think about nothing. Just simply exist, simply rest. This simple practice may be the most powerful thing you can do for your long-term health. It can effectively lower cortisol levels in your body, slow the shortening of your telomeres, give your cells precious repair time, and allow your spirit and emotions to recover deeply. When my friend Henry began practicing this Italian pause method in his life underwent tremendous transformation. He learned to say no to unnecessary obligations. Every afternoon, he unfailingly gave himself 20 minutes of quiet time. He told me he felt as if he had taken off heavy armor he'd been carrying for decades. His sleep became deep and peaceful, his energy was more focused than before, and he no longer worried about small things. Most importantly, he began to have the mood and ability to enjoy those little things he previously considered a waste of time, like quietly drinking coffee in the garden, reading a book unrelated to work, or simply watching clouds roll by outside the window. He wrote in an email, "I finally understand that the meaning of life isn't in filling every minute with business, but in savoring every peaceful moment with your heart." My friends, today we've explored together 4 longevity secrets from Italy: the ritual of the table, the rhythm of life, the power of the piazza, and the art of the pause. Have you noticed? These 4 seemingly independent habits all point to the same profound core: consciously slowing down and re-establishing our most authentic and deepest connections with food, with our bodies, with others, and with our own inner selves. This isn't about abandoning efficiency and becoming lazy. On the contrary, this is a higher-level wisdom about life management. It shows us that true vitality doesn't come from endless consumption and burning, but from rhythms of tension and relaxation, from knowing how to recharge ourselves and how to nourish our bodies and minds. These changes don't require any additional expense or purchasing any special equipment. They only need a little bit of our willingness and moments of focus during the day. So I want to sincerely invite you once more, starting today, try to consciously extend your meal times to 20 minutes. Try to engage in 30 minutes daily of gentle movement that brings you joy, like a relaxing walk. Try this week to call a friend or family member you haven't contacted in a long time for a real conversation. Try today to give yourself 20 minutes of pause time, letting your body and mind get complete rest. These small changes are like stones thrown into a calm lake. The ripples they create will slowly yet profoundly change the entire landscape of your life over time. Our bodies are wise and remarkable systems. When you begin treating them with a more gentle, respectful, and loving approach, they will surely reward you with greater vitality, better health, and longer years. I really want to hear your thoughts and stories. Among these 4 sweet life principles, which one resonates most with you? Do you already have some similar practices and experiences in your own life? Please leave your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I promise I'll read every single one carefully, because I believe each of us can become mentors and friends to each other on this journey of later life. If you found today's content inspiring, please don't hesitate to like and share it with friends in your life who you care about and who equally deserve a healthier, happier later life. Your small action might truly add many beautiful years to their lives. Finally, please remember to subscribe to my channel. In the future, I'll continue sharing more scientifically based practical methods about how to gracefully and wisely spend our golden years. Thank you for your precious time and companionship. It's never too late to begin a better later life. See you next time.